You hear it long before you see it, the faint creak of hidden hinges somewhere in the gilded dusk of Versailles. Your candle sputters as a draft snakes across the parquet floor, carrying the scent of orange blossom perfume and something sharper, metallic, like blood on a polished dagger. A section of walnut, a tapestry depicting St. Louis peels away to reveal a narrow passage. And there, framed in its secret throat, stands the boy king, Louis XV, barely 15, pupils wide with dread and desire. He lifts a finger to his lips. Not a sound, that gesture says, but your heart is already hammering loud enough to shake the mirrors in the hall beyond. Most chronicles begin with coronations or battlefields. This story begins with a clandestine door because Louis's life will be measured not by victories, but by the corridors. He discovers sand, the corridors that devour him. He is a monarch chastised by priests for an imagination too vivid, yet tonight he is chasing an apparition everyone at court insists does not exist. The Dame de Cendres, the Ash Lady, the ghost said to wander King Louis XIV's abandoned apartments. She is rumored to offer one kiss for every secret a king must never speak. Louis has 600 secrets to hide, and, by popular gossip, 600 future mistresses to mask the Mayat he is still, impossibly, untouched. Virgin flesh draped in fleur-de-lis silk. Your breath fogs the air as you follow him. The passageway twists like intestine behind Versailles' marble organs. Each step echoes with the pulse of bourbon blood-thready, inbred, desperate to keep itself pure even as it curdles. The king's slippered feet pause before an unmarked door. He turns, and in his frightened eyes, you glimpse the first psychological trigger, anticipation tethered to terror. You know something extraordinary waits on the other side, but you fear the price of witnessing it. That tension hooks deeper than any fish knife. It drags you forward because retreat would mean a lifetime of regretting the mystery unsolved. When the door swings open, the room inside is no grand salon, only a cramped alcove lit by a single crimson lamp. The walls are scrawled with charcoal drawings. Women without faces, bodies half finished, half flayed, hovering between ecstasy and agony. On a low table lies a silver hand mirror, its glass cracked into a spiderweb. Louis snatches it up, studies his reflection in the fractured shards. 600 versions of himself stare back, each warped differently. One with feverish eyes, another hollow-cheeked, another wearing a rueful smile. He whispers as if reciting a litany, "Am I Louis the Beloved, or Louis the Forsaken?" And every mirror answers with silent pity. Here's your curiosity gap. How can a king destined for myth feel so unsure he even exists? Court pamphlets will one day mock him as a libertine who stocked entire apartments with courtesans. Yet in this crimson room, the future rake shivers like a penitent in confession. You suspect that whatever happens tonight will birth both Legends the Virgin and the predator inside the same fragile skin. A ragged breath behind you. You turn. A woman materializes from the gloom, her gown the color of funeral ash, her face veiled. No footsteps announced her. She moves the way secrets move, soundless, undeniable. The Ash Lady. Louis falls to his knees as if gravity has singled him out. "I am ready," he says, though his voice splinters. She reaches for him, gloved fingers brushing the nape of his neck, and an electric despair floods the chamber. You feel it too, the knowledge that one touch can rewrite a life's trajectory. Psychological trigger 2, the irreversible moment. The Ash Lady removes her veil at the candle gutters, and you glimpse only fragments. A mouth stitched into a wry half-smile, eyes so dark they might be holes punched through the world. She leans close to the king's ear. Her whisper is low, but you catch enough to raise every hair on your arms. 600 doors will open to you, my sweet prince, and each will demand an offering. What you cannot give in blood you will pay in innocence. Louis's shoulders quake. A single tear slides down his cheek, glitters in the lamp, and vanishes. Then she kisses him not on the lips but on the center of his forehead, as a mother marks a child with soot on Ash Wednesday. The gesture is chaste, almost holy, and yet the room tilts, the temperature drops. Outside, a clock strikes midnight, though the palace bells are silent. When the kiss ends, The Ash Lady steps back into shadow, becoming once more a smear of darkness against darker stone. The king stands unsteadily. For a heartbeat, his eyes blaze with new hunger, part longing, part terror, part something unnamed. He turns the cracked mirror toward you, and in its fragments you no longer see 600 reflections of Louis. You see 600 silhouettes of women, each reaching for you with desperate hands. The future is crowding in. Louis speaks, voice raw. She showed me who I will become. He swallows. And she promised I would never be touched again unless I learned to turn desire into distance. You don't yet understand, but the phrase Virgin King will echo down decades, shielding him even as he dives into pleasures that will stagger Europe. His reign will become a masquerade of chastity and carnality, the perfect paradox for pamphleteers and preachers alike. From the corridor, a sudden rattle footsteps of real courtiers, hunting their sovereign. Louis presses the mirror into your trembling hands. Guard this, he pleads. If I forget myself, remind me that once, only once, I was pure. Then he slips through a side door back into dazzling candlelight, the beloved boy king again, ready to greet a ballroom of fawning nobles who will never guess the ghost who anointed him. You clutch the broken mirror, and its shards whisper futures you can't yet parse. A secret apartment called Deer Park filled with perfumed girls. A courtesan named Pompadour who will redefine power. Another, Du Barry, who will ride her smile straight to the guillotine's shadow. 600 doors, 600 offerings. And somewhere, buried beneath silk and sin, the memory of tonight's single, sorrowful kiss. The candle gutters, dies. In darkness you hear the Ash Lady's voice one last time. Watch him. Every pleasure he takes will be an attempt to erase that Cassandre. Every pleasure will carve the memory deeper. Your grip tightens on the mirror's jagged edge. Blood beads along your palm, bright as rubies in the dark. The first offering has already been made. Versailles wakes like a beast in velvet-stirring tapestries, rattling chandeliers, 1,000 powdered courtiers exhaling gossip instead of air. It is 1734 now, and rumor is the palace's only reliable currency. Your secret taskkeeper of the cracked mirror has grown heavier with each passing year, as if the glass feeds on whispered sins. Across your palm, the scar from that first night still burns whenever Louis crosses a new threshold. He has crossed many. A hidden wing just east of the marble courtyards has taken on a furtive name, Le Parc-aux-Cerfs, the Deer Park. It sounds bucolic, innocent, but everyone at court knows it is neither a garden nor a menagerie. It is an orchard where girls ripen overnight, plucked before the sun can wither their bloom. They arrive anonymous, chosen by agents who measure not lineage but softness of skin, pliancy of spirit. They depart just as wordlessly, married off, bribed into silence, or spirited away beyond the gates. Versailles swears they never existed, yet the corridors echo with phantom laughter, with the faintest scent of lilac left on silk sheets. You have never set foot inside until today. A sealed note delivered at dawn bore the king's wax seal and only 4 words: "Come, bring the mirror." And so you stand before an unmarked door, guarded by 2 grenadiers whose eyes slide past you as though ordered to forget your face. The lock clicks open. A hushed governess with chalk-white hair beckons you down a staircase spiraling toward the cellars. Halfway down, she mutters without turning, "Remember your first fall?" The phrase snags at you, the Ash Lady's whisper. Every pleasure he takes will carve the memory deeper. You tighten your grip on the mirror, shards winking in the candlelight. The staircase empties into a suite of low-ceilinged chambers painted in tender pastels: rose, pistachio, sky. A soft golden glow floods everything, as if time itself has paused at perpetual dawn. You count 13 doors, each feathered with silk curtains. From behind some you hear girlish giggles, behind others, sobbing muffled in pillows. Louis waits at the center, alone on a chaise longue upholstered in cream brocade. He is 24, the most desired man in Europe. Yet his gaze tonight is that same frantic flicker you saw at 15. His first words slice through the hush. "Tell me I am still holy." He says it like a plea, like a blade held to his own throat. You cannot lie, but you can answer with a question. Why summon me? He gestures to a nearby door, the only one painted black. Because behind that door is the future Pompadour, perhaps Du Barry, one can say. I must choose whether to open it. But each girl I claim becomes another shard of the prophecy. Look. He pulls you closer. On a mirrored table lies a ledger, pages inked with dates and nameswell, not names, only initials. M, A, C, each paired with an emotion scribbled in Latin. Spes hope, timer fear, luxuria lust. You run your finger down the list and discover a new psychological snare enumeration of guilt. Every letter is the ghost of a girl, every emotion a tally on his soul. Louis touches one entry, E, Amor et dolor, love and pain. His voice tremors. She was 17, I promised her a dowry. She left here pregnant. I found a husband for her, but at night I taste ashes. He looks at you as though you might hand him absolution wrapped in silk. But absolution requires confession, and confession cracks thrones. Instead, you lay the cracked mirror on the ledger. The broken glass fractures the columns until ink and reflection merge, numbers splitting like cells. 600 destinies overlap, impossible to untangle. The king flinches. It's multiplying, he whispers. I take one woman, and the fissure spawns 10 more. I thought the Ash Lady lied, yet the prophecy breeds itself. You point to the black door. What waits there? He shudders. A girl of 14, Parisian accent. Her father sells ribbons at Les Halles. She believes she has been invited to dance for the queen. He exhales a single hopeless laugh. There is no queen to knightenly me, and the choice to indulge or abstain. Curiosity Gap yawns. Will Louis cross the threshold? Will he rupture his last vestige of innocence? The chateau seems to hold its breath. Footsteps. The governess returns with a porcelain bowl of water scented with verbena. She kneels, lifts Louis's hands, begins washing them as though he were Pontius Pilate. Clean before entering, she murmurs. Water darkens, swirling gray. It is clear water, but your eyes insist on seeing soot. The Ash Lady's kiss still stains his brow. You alone perceive it. Louis stands. Candlelight pools in his downcast lashes. If I enter that room, I unmake her girlhood. He hesitates. If I do not, someone else will. There it is, the rationalization that fuels every tyranny. If I don't, another will. You feel something inside you crumple, a page torn from a sacred book. The king's hand grasps the door latch. Wood groans, silk rustles, a girl's breath catches. You glimpse her silhouette, white chemise, bare feet, hopeful posture. Louis steps over the threshold. The door closes. Minutes pass 3, 5, 7. Each second scratches across your nerves like a quill carving tally marks. Through the door you catch fragments of nervous laugh, a soft gasp, silence, then the unmistakable rustle of clothing discarded. At last a single phrase floats through the crack. Forgive me, little dove. When the door opens again, the girl is gone, spirited deeper into the warren. Louis emerges alone, cheeks flushed, eyes glazed as though he has swallowed laudanum. He looks at you, then at the mirror. A new fracture zigzags across the glass, lightning splitting an already shattered sky. You didn't drop it. The break bloomed by itself. He whispers, "How many shards now?" You count silently 34, but aloud you say, "Enough to reflect every star in France." He almost smiles, then the smile collapses. Starlight guides no sinner. A bell rings somewhere above supper in the hall of mirrors. Court awaits the king in gilded splendor. Louis straightens his coat, powdered blue silk embroidered with silver lilies. No trace remains of the cellar's pastel hush. He turns back once more. "Guard the mirror," he says, "and remember what innocence looked like, for I never will." As you ascend the staircase, mirror tucked against your ribs, a strange mottled pattern appears on its surface, satiny specks like freckles. You rub them, but they deepen. You realize with a chill they are forming a map of France. each speck marking a town, each town another mistress, yet unborn. The mirror is predicting hunger, war, revolution, the eventual price of 600 doors. At the landing you pause, hearing distant thunder though the sky is calm. Maybe it is only the palace's bones settling, or maybe it is history already marching, boots striking cobblestones in rhythm, with a future guillotine. One thought presses against your skull. Every kingdom is a story told too often. Repetition breeds contempt, contempt breeds revolt. Louis believes his secret's buried, but Versailles is porous, and echoes travel. Somewhere tonight a pamphleteer dips his pen, waiting for rumors to ripen into scandal. Somewhere a hungry child wonders why bread costs more than a day's toil. The shards in your mirror glitter, they hunger too. You step into a corridor bathed in chandelier light. Nobles swoop like jeweled moths toward the feast, oblivious to the ashes gathering at their feet. Above them, in a hidden alcove, the Ash Lady watches. For a moment your eyes meet. She inclines her head, as if to say, "The orchard grows, and harvest season nears." Your scar itches. The mirror's newest crack pulses. You walk on, knowing you carry in your hands not merely a reflection but a prophecy sharp enough to draw blood in France, though it does not yet know, is already bleeding. The summer of 1744 clamps its humid fist around France, and even the limestone walls of Metz sweat. War with Austria drags the young king north to his armies. Triumph should taste like trumpet brass, but Louis inhales only the sour musk of wet canvas and fear. You ride in the baggage train, mirror wrapped in oilcloth, its cracks multiplying like veins in droughted earth. Each night you tilt it toward the campfires. Sparks skitter across the glass and die, as though the flames themselves are afraid of their reflections. On the 8th August, the first cough blossoms behind the king's ribs. By dawn it has flowered into fever, so fierce the surgeons whisper smallpox, dysentery, even plague. They bleed him twice. Each bowl of dark red water seems to echo the Ash Lady's Cassevary. Pleasure will carve the memory deeper. Every pain will carve it deeper still. Louis drifts between worlds, sheets drenched. Courtiers lurk outside the sick room tallying odds, some already practicing the next king's name on their tongues. Louis le XVI. Louis le XVI, a funereal litany disguised as loyalty. Inside, the royal confessor, Père de Sacy, presses a crucifix to the monarch's cracked lips and murmurs, "Sire, renounce your sins, and God will spare you." Here is your new psychological trigger, the bargaining chip of mortality. The more absolute a man's power, the more helpless he becomes when his veins rebel. Louis claws at the priest's sleeve. "If I live," he rasps, "I will send every mistress away, every last one." His voice splinters. "I will break the orchard, I will invite the queen." You stand in the corner, unnoticed, mirror hidden beneath your cloak. In its broken depths you glimpse flickers, a weeping Madame de Mailly dismissed in a midnight carriage, the pastel doors of Deer Park slamming shut, a line of young girls let out under cover of dawn, futures severed like flower stems. The mirror is showing you the promise unspoken. Outside, Metz cathedral bells drone a death peal, though no one has yet died. Soldiers kneel in muddy prayer, townsfolk raise votive candles, gamblers in taverns hedge bets on whether the king will see September. The entire map of France seems to exhale the same word if. That night the fever climbs higher. Louis begins to rave. Fragments of Latin prayers tangled with girls' names he swore never to speak aloud. Eleanor, forgiveness. Anne Charlotte, keep the ribbon, Pompadour. The last startles you, Madame de Thiel. Not yet his maitresse and teacher, but already rumor's favorite blossom, is miles away at her husband's estate. Yet her phantom stands at the foot of the bed, watching. You turn and there she is, flesh and breath. Jean Antoinette Poisson, cheeks flushed from a breakneck ride, hair clinging to her neck like damp silk. She curtsies, but her eyes flinty blue never leave the king. She senses you examining her and murmurs, summoned by desperation, not courtesy. She carries a small parcel bound in violet ribbon. Père de Sacy blocks her path. His Majesty requires prayer, not novelty. She opens the parcel. Inside, a child's puppet carved from apple wood, paint faded. "He gave me this when I was 8, she says quietly. "Promised I'd dance at his wedding." Her smile is sorrowful gold. "He has forgotten, but I kept the promise for him." The priest hesitates. The puppet dangles like an indictment of broken vows. Finally, he allows her to kneel beside the bed. She presses the toy into the king's slick palm and whispers, "Louis, you once gave joy before you sought it." A single tear dots his knuckles. The mirror in your satchel vibrates, almost humming. You withdraw it. New fissures bloom, but not outward. You understand with a jolt. The fractures are converging, crystallizing into a single point of collapse the moment history will pivot. At dawn, thunder shakes Metz. Rain batters the casements, sluicing powder from the soldiers' hats. Inside, the king's fever breaks as abruptly as it rose. He sleeps at last, breath steady. Père de Sacy proclaims a miracle. Courtiers stampede to the chapel to thank Providence and, more practically, to pen letters swearing they never doubted their sovereign's fortitude. Louis wakes in a pale drizzle of dawn light. His eyes, clear for the first time in days, find yours. "The orchard," he whispers. "Burn it." His gaze drifts to Jeannie Antoinette still kneeling, lips moving in silent prayer. The puppet rests beside the pillow like a relic. She stays, he adds, but as light, not shadow. You bow, uncertain whether the vow will survive the next temptation. In the mirror, a new image quivers. The Deer Park gates wreathed in flame, yes, but beyond them, a grand salon glimmering rose and emerald, where Pompadour reigns with pen, brush, and subtle intrigue. You'd hoped the mirror might mend itself at the orchard's end. Instead, it reveals a truth crueler. Desire cannot be destroyed, only redesigned. That afternoon, Louis signs a formal act of contrition. Each stroke of his quill seems to etch itself onto the mirror's surface, visible only to you, forming words that drip like molten silver. Debt transferred. You recall the Ash Lady's prophecy. What cannot be given in blood will be paid in innocence. The ledger's columns have merely shifted headings. Metz celebrates. Church bells clash with musket volleys. In Paris, sermons declare a pious king reborn. Yet pamphleteers sharpen new nibs. And somewhere in the bowels of Versailles, the pastel chambers stand eerily silent, toys abandoned, a faint perfume of lilac clinging to dust. Night falls. You walk the ramparts, mirror cradled against the breeze. Clouds part, revealing a moon like a scythe. Its light runs along the fractures until they glisten like rivers on a battle map. You realize the cracks now sketch a guillotine's outline, blade poised at the top of its frame. Not yet, but soon enough. A soft footstep. Jeannie Antoinette appears beside you, cloak whipped by wind. "You are his chronicler," she says. It is not a question. Tell Meadows he survived by chance or by curse. You offer her the mirror. See for yourself. She peers into the broken glass, eyes widening as images flicker ballroom triumphs. Parliamentary wars, children born and buried, a necklace scandal yet unborn. Her own face aging but unbowed. At last she jerks back. Prophecies are snares. Better to craft the ending ourselves. You almost laugh. Can we? She fingers the violet ribbon in her pocket. Stories obey those who master their symbols. I intend to weave new symbols until the old ones forget their power. Her gaze hardens. Guard that mirror, but never trust it. It shows what will happen only if we behave exactly as we fear. Wind rattles the rampart flags. The mirror's fractures settle into silence, as though listening. Jeannie Antoinette tips her head toward the royal pavilion where Louis sleeps. Tomorrow he rides again, haloed in redemption. Tomorrow I return to Paris to prepare a different stage. You watch her depart, her silhouette cutting through lamplight like a quill stroker rewriting margins no man has yet read. And you wonder, if symbols can be unstitched, could even the Ash Lady's kiss fade? The mirror answers with a faint tremor, neither denial nor assent, merely appetite. Below, Metz slumbers in post-miracle stupor. But inside the broken glass, you glimpse Paris awake and hungry, swarming across bridges, murmuring the newest rumor. The king renounces sin but keeps the sin's muse. Curiosity seeds itself in every gutter. Revolution, you suspect, first sprouts as gossip. You wrap the mirror once more. The blade-shaped moon slides behind clouds. Far off, a lone nightingale sings too early for dawn, too late for dreams. Another psychological trigger. The herald cry before the storm. You sense centuries shifting on their hinges. Somewhere, the ash lady likely smiles. Your scar tingles, as if a quill scribes fresh lines beneath your skin. You whisper to the night, how many shards remain unbroken? The darkness does not answer. Or perhaps it does in silence thicker than churchyard soil. You head inside, candle guttering, determined to sleep before the next fracture forms. Yet even as your eyelids drop, the mirror pulses warm against your chest, a heart within a heart, counting down. Paris, 1756 snowflakes spiral past the lanterns of the Pont Neuf like torn letters never posted. You stand beneath the frozen arch, cloak pulled tight, waiting for the signal that will split another era. A violinist somewhere plays a refrain from Les Indes Galantes, and each note lands on the Seine with an audible crack music shattering in the cold. That sound becomes your first warning. Beauty under pressure will always break. A carriage creaks to a halt. Its door opens not outward, but upward, like the mouth of a marionette. Jeannie Antoinette, now Madame de Pompadour, the uncrowned queen of taste, steps onto the cobbles. Her perfume wafts warm cinnamon against the ice, a contradiction sharp enough to sting. She presses a sealed folio into your hand. For His Majesty, she says, but her eyes flick to the oilcloth bundle beneath your arm, and for the mirror a new scene. You trail her through the December hush to the Théâtre des Petits Cabinets, a secret playhouse built inside a wing of Versailles that official architects pretend does not exist. The corridor smells of fresh paint and powdered rosin. It hums with saws behind closed-door stagehands, carving illusions from pine wood before dawn's patrols arrive. Pompadour pauses where velvet drapes conceal a still dark auditorium. Tonight, she murmurs, Louis will see a comedy written to keep the guillotine at bay. A laugh tries to escape your throat but emerges as fog. Comedy fights blades? Laughter redirects knives, she answers. If the people believe their king bleeds like them, they will ask only for bandages, not vengeance. Her eyes harden. The trick is to bleed on cue. You follow her onto the unlit stage. Rows of empty fauteuils stretch before you like open jaws. She lifts a candelabrum. Tiny flames reveal painted Flatza village square, a baker's shop, a tavern door. Rural France, rendered benign, where bread is merely backdrop, never hunger. Your skin prickles at the lie. Why bring me here, you ask. Pompadour gestures, and two footmen roll forward a colossal gilt frame draped in black silk. When they yank the cloth, you stagger. It is your Murano, an enlarged duplicate, every crack replicated in polished obsidian. A prop, she says softly. The king shall play himself opposite his own broken reflection. He will rehearse confession in art before daring it in life. But if he speaks truth on stage, you say, the audience becomes accomplice. Exactly. She smiles, a sword sliding back into a sheath. Accomplices defend what they help create. You unwrap the original mirror. Its veins now converge in a single dark vortex, the size of a coin like the pupil of an enormous eye. You angle it toward the copy, cracks a line, and for an instant the stage prop seems to inhale. Steel strings on its backside groaning as if alive. A stagehand gasps. The air smells of struck flint. Pompadour lays a hand on your arm. Do not fear the echo. An echo is merely proof a voice existed. Her fingers linger, then withdraw. Come, we must coach our monarch. Backstage, Louis XV paces, already costumed as Lizador, a fictional miller who squanders inheritance on fickle doves. The irony is so blunt it bends light. Yet when he notices you, relief washes his face. She still trusts the silent witness who guards his guilt. Does the mirror forgive tonight, he asks. It remembers, you answer. Forgiveness and memory seldom share a bed. He winces but nods. The memory scar on your palm throbs. Cue lights up. The orchestra strikes a jaunty overture. Curtains climb. Louis steps onto boards that creak like confessionals. Peasants painted on canvas cheer. He delivers comic laments about debts and dalliance, then turns to the giant cracked mirror. Lines you helped Pompadour draft spill out. Who sees the shards inside a smile? Who weighs a dove against a crown? If bread is scarce, I'll feast on lies, until the lies pull kingdoms down. Audience laughter teeters, uneasy comedy stapled to prophecy. Louis falters. Sweat beads through rice powder. The mirror's vortex twitches, ink swirling. You sense tonight could fuse theater and throne, desire and debt into one self-immolating spectacle. Your lungs ache with the need to intervene, yet the script forbids you. Then a hiss from the balcony. Baker of girls! A pamphleteer has smuggled satire into flesh. Others join le bien-aimé. Ha! Le bien-affamé! The well-hungered. The jibe slices. Louis pales. Stage peasants freeze. Puppets with cut strings. Pompadour rises in her box, face an alabaster mask. The king turns full toward the mirror. His voice drops to raw whisper, off script. Tell me how to atone. The copy mirror's surface ripples like oil on water, reflecting not his face but hundreds the orchard girls, the deer park ghosts, the ash lady crowned in soot. Gasps ripple through the hall. Even cynics feel the temperature plunge. The real mirror in your hands pulses hot, demanding union. Instinct overrules caution. You sprint onto stage, thrust the original glass against its giant twin. Cracks Alignand light explodes. Not brightness, but an inversion. A bloom of velvety darkness that sucks breath from lungs, ink from quills, certainty from reason. When vision returns, the auditorium lies silent. The large mirror is whole, flawless. The small one in your grasp has shattered into dust. Louis kneels amid glittering specks. He scoops a handful diamond tears. No more shards, he murmurs. Does that mean the prophecy ends? Pompadour descends from her box, skirts whispering. She opens her palm. Within it sits one black sliver, the mirror's pupil, still unbroken. Stories never end, she says, voice steady. They condense. She tucks the shard into a locket at her throat. Let the kingdom believe the mirror healed. We three will remember the fragment that can cut. Thunder of boots, guards swarm, arresting the pamphleteer. Audience members pour into aisles, opinions jangling like unsheathed saber shaft, stunned by magic, half convinced they witnessed treason. The theater trembles with the first tectonic rumble of 1789, 33 years early. You help Louis to his feet. In his eyes swirls terror and liberation, an addict tasting antidote and poison at once. I bared my soul, he says. Will they forgive? Not forgive, Pompadour answers, looping her arm through his. They will linger, caught between contempt and fascination. That hesitation buys us time. Another curiosity gap snaps open. Time for what? You sense both of them glance at you, conspirators bound by glass dust. Outside, wind rattles palace shutters. Somewhere, the ash lady's laugh slides along the eaves. Your bare palm, now free of its scar, tingles where blood once ran. The pain is gone, but a numbness spreads price of trading prophecy for mystery. You realize the real theater isn't this stage. It is France itself, and the script you helped ignite now writes in invisible ink on every bakery queue and tax ledger. Tonight we rewove symbols, Pompadour says as the trio steps into drafty corridors. Tomorrow we must weave faster. Louis, voice hoarse, asks, and if the final shard breaks? She meets his gaze. Then the curtain falls on us all, but not tonight. You glance back once. On the darkened stage, flakes of mirror dust still glitter, constellations on vacant boards. But you feel inexorably that someone, somewhere, is learning to read them. Snow still tumbles outside, muffling Versailles in temporary innocence. Beneath that hush, the ground warms, thawing just enough for seeds of revolt to take root. You draw breath, tasting iron and cinnamon. Another act awaits. You smell her dying before you see it. Stacks of violet sachets rot in the chill corridors, petals collapsing into bruised dark pulp, Madame de Pompadour's signature fragrance, soured by weeks of fever. It is April 1764, and Versailles has an odor now, a faint sweetness turned rancid, like a pastry left too long in an empty nursery. Courtiers call it la senteur de death, scent of farewell. You pause at the threshold of her apartments, the single black shard of mirror pounding like a second heart inside your coat pocket. Each beat reminds you, symbols unstitched can re-snarl themselves. Beyond the door, the king keeps vigil. He has forbidden priest Pompadour once said confession belongs to theater, not death, but he has summoned you, the chronicler, as if truth still needs a witness even when love is choking on its own lungs. Inside, shutters mute the April sun to funeral dusk. Pompadour lies propped by pillows the color of old parchment. Her breath rattles like seeds in a gourd. Louis sits beside her, hair unpowdered, eyes rimmed crimson. You have never seen him so naked of roll. His hand cradles hers, thumb circling pulse points that flutter then fade. She sees you and manages a crooked smile. I outlived the orchard, didn't I? Her voice is paper thin but sly. Louis bows his head, tears slip onto her sheets. You realize psychological trigger. The king as child beside the one woman who made his sins appear deliberate. The power dynamic flips. Sovereignty shrinks to helpless boyhood. Pompadour beckons you closer. Do you have it? Breath whistles between each word. You produce the locket. The shard glimmers, black as starless midnight. She touches it but does not open the clasp. Guard it now, she says. When I'm gone, this sliver will hunt another host. Be quicker than fate. Louis breaks. Don't speak of leaving. Her fingers brush his cheek, mottled with fever blotches she cannot feel. My king, I exit only the body. Influence is ether. She coughs, specks of blood peppering lace. Hold the kingdom with kindness, if not, it will hold you with chains. You feel the room constrict, as if history inhales. A curiosity gap yawns. The ash lady materializes in the cornerno, just shadow fooling the eye, but you smell cold hearthstone. Pompadour's pupils track the darkness. She nods, resigned. Every debt, dear chronicler, rolls forward. Pay attention to the next collector. She closes her eyes and does not open them again. A candle gutters. Its flame's last tremor sketches a question mark on the wall. Minutes, maybe hours pass before Louis stands. He leans to kiss her brow, then turns to you, face carved from salt. Burn the sachets, he orders. No perfume must linger to haunt me. You comply, but ashes keep their own counsel. Smoke coils through corridors, twining with rumors. Within days, pamphlets blazon. The king's star falls, who rises next? Versailles answers with a new name. Jeanne Bécu, Comtesse du Barry, a courtesan whose laugh crackles like brandy on flame. She arrives in 1768, 4 years after Pompadour's passing, riding a storm of scandal big enough to blot the sun. Nobles sneer low birth, empty head, yet Louis glows near her as if youth has returned. You meet Du Barry in the Hall of Mirrors, where she stands admiring herself in triple reflection. They say you keep the king's soul in shards? She teases, swiveling toward you. Her eyes wolf amber take your measure. Show me? You deny possession, but the locket burns against your ribs. She senses the lie, her smile widens. No matter. Mirrors find me. She twirls, skirts dazzling with silver thread, and for an instant every panel shows not her face, but the vanished Pompadour blink and gone. You flinch. She laughs. Ghosts are jealous lovers. That night you dream of the ash lady forging keys from mirror dust, unlocking doors that multiply down endless corridors. Each door bears Du Barry's grin burnt into the wood. You wake drenched, the locket ice cold. A crack has appeared across the black shard prophecy, fracturing afresh. Psychological trigger. impending repetition. The orchard lies fallow, but its soil still fertile. Louis commissions lavish gems for Du Barry, trinkets rumored to exceed grain reserves for 3 provinces. Bread lines lengthen, tavern songs sharpen. In Paris, children chant, 600 mistresses, 1 empty bowl, meter perfect for marching feet. You confront the king during a masquerade, he in Roman armor, you cloaked plain. Majesty, each jewel you bestow buys another pamphlet. He bristles, my subjects love spectacle. You gesture to the ballroom, satin, feathers, charcoal torches. Spectacle is a blade with 2 edges. One dazzles, the other harvests heads. He turns away. Over violins you hear his whisper, Pompadour promised laughter could delay the guillotine. Without her, I must gamble on oblivion. He surveys the swirling masked sun god, satyr, skeleton. I wager everything. Across the hall, Du Barry dances, necklace of moonlit diamonds pulsing like a throat of lightning bugs. Behind her, in mirror glass, the Ash Lady's silhouette hovers, arms outstretched, counting coup. You retreat to your study beneath the eaves, quill scratching warnings no one may read. The mirror shard rests on velvet, fissure widening nightly. Each dawn you catalog new lines, spidering across its depth, as if etching a sketch of something hulking nearer an execution device. A flag, the indistinct outline of crowds. One evening Du Barry appears unannounced, curls glistening with jasmine oil. She lifts the shard between thumb and forefinger. The crack within resembles a lightning fork. Pretty, she purrs, but broken things are unlucky, or prophetic. She tilts her head. Prophecies bind only believers. She pockets the shard before you can protest. Let's test faith, shall we? The second she leaves, heat floods the room, charcoal furnace hotten the window's frost from inside out. The Ash Lady's voice whispers through the keyhole. Debt transferred again. Your scar long since numb flares like a brand, splitting. Blood beads along the old path, reborn. You realize the pattern. Every time power trades hands, Ash Lady to Louis, Louis to Pompadour, Pompadour to Du Barry's mirror wounds its witness. Each transfer yokes you tighter to the prophecy, chronicler becoming ledger. Curiosity swells. When the final crack fissures skin, will you bleed kingdom-wide? Outside, thunder rolls though, skies are clear. A servant bursts in, panting. Bread riots at Les Halles women, overturning carts, chanting for flour, and he swallows for La Du Barry's head. Symbol meets tinder. You wrap your palm, seize cloak, race toward the palace chapel, where Louis cloisters with astrologers. On the way, you glimpse Du Barry on a balcony, clutching the shard pendant now strung around her neck. Lightning greel lightning splits the horizon, striking so close the marble rail steams. The crack inside the shard glows molten red. For a breath the courtyard freezes. Thunderous hush, all eyes lifted. Then rain sheets down, extinguishing torches, soaking silks to skin. In that gray cascade, noble and servant alike look suddenly alike, flesh shivering beneath finery. The illusion of difference melts. Another psychological trigger. Shared vulnerability births revolt. Du Barry retreats inside, but whispers gallop faster than horses. The king's witch drew lightning. Priests cross themselves, guards mumble prayers. Panic smells like burnt lilac. The ghost of Pompadour mocking from the rafters. You reach the astrologer's chamber. Louis reels amid a circle of star charts. He grabs your shoulders. They predict tempests until I purge corruption. But how to purge what's entangled in my veins? You produce a blood-spotted handkerchief. Start here, you say. End the chain, return the debt to its origin. His eyes reflect candle flame and terror. Before he can answer, a bell tolls urgent, off-schedule the alarm for civil unrest breaching palace grounds. Footsteps pound. Somewhere, glass shatters. The future no longer scratches politely. It kicks the door. Your hand throbs, mere dust blood seeping through linen. You wonder if the chronicler must soon become author of the kingdom's last line. The shard around Du Barry's throat gleams in your mind's eye, pulse to pulse with drums of riot. Outside, the storm redoubles, as though clouds have declared their own revolution. The Ash Lady's voice rides the thunder. Harvest time. You meet the king's gaze. No words remain. Only the silence before a continent exhales. Versailles no longer purrs. It growls. Marble floors vibrate with distant hoofbeat cavalry rushing to smother bread riots already spreading like ink across linen. You race through corridors lit by sputtering sconces, each torch a wounded eye. In your pocket, the handkerchief damp with mirror blood sticks to skin. Every throb reminds you the kingdom's debt now bleeds through you. At the far end of the Hall of Mirrors, Du Barry stands framed by fractured reflections. Diamonds of her necklace flashing Morse code warnings. The black shard at her throat glows crack widening. Heartbeat sinking to the crowd's drums beyond the gilded gates. She turns as you approach, amber eyes bright with panic disguised as scorn. Your prophecies taste bitter, chronicler. They were never meant as candy, you reply. Give me the shard. She laughs, brittle as frozen sugar. Take it then if you can. She jerks the chain. The clasp snaps and the shard skitters across parquet like a shard of night itself. Lightning bursts outside so close panes shiver. A window blows inward, rain slashing the ballroom. You dive, fingers closing around the fragment. It sears your palm, a coal of condensed futures. For a breath, the cracked glass shows nothing but your own eye, wide and exhausted, before blooming with visions. Women in tricolor cockades. Muskets thrust through carriage windows. A king in silk, gray-faced, whispering, "Was I ever beloved?" As jeers answer. Du Barry backs away, skirts drenched, rouge streaking. "Keep your curse," she spits, fleeing toward hidden stairways. You almost pity hair almost. Debt does not discriminate. It only tallies. Behind you, twin doors slam open. Louis storms in, hair unpowdered, rain streaming down breastplate meant for a masquerade, not a battle. The guard is overwhelmed, he gasps. Paris marches. His gaze drops to the shard glowing hell red in your fist. That thing draws ruin. No, you breathe. It reflects it. You open your palm. The crack has multiplied into a spiderweb on final filament holding shape. There is still a hinge of fate unbroken. He stares, drenched and desperate. Tell me where it leads. Outside these mirrors. A hush blankets the sentence. The Hall of Mirrors, your shared confessor since adolescence, suddenly feels like a prison of echoes. You feel a click psychological trigger. The realization that survival demands stepping beyond the story's frame. Come, you say. You guide the king through servants' corridors, down to a postern gate seldom used since Louis XIV hunted pheasants here. Rain turns earth to pitch. Beyond the fence, torchlit silhouettes surge market women, apprentices, veterans of forgotten war chanting for bread, for justice, for heads. Their fury thrums through mud like subterranean thunder. Louis grips your arm. If they see me, they must, you answer. Not the masks, the man. He hesitates, then steps forward. No guards, no crown, only a soaked velvet coat and remorse clinging heavier than water. The mob's front line spots him. A roar rises, half astonishment, half hunger. Pitchforks lift like iron teeth. Someone hurls a stone. It arcs and lands harmless at his fetusting mercy. Louis lifts his hands, empty, rain beads on lashes. My people, he begins, voice cracking after decades of scripted speeches. I have failed you. The sentence trembles raw meat tossed to wolves or balm to the wounded. He cannot know. The crowd quiets, curiosity gap yawning wide enough to swallow the palace. He continues, confession unpolished. Shortages, taxes, indulgences, naming them plain as storm clouds. Each word seems to lighten him, even as lightning forks overhead. You stand beside, shard glowing. In its depths, the crack quivers, sensing tension between absolution and retribution. Then a child's voice pierces the hush. If you're sorry, feed us. A small boy, hair plastered to skull, hoists half a loaf moldy at the edges. The simplest demand, impossible to refuse. Louis kneels monarch in Moudon, presses both palms to the sodden ground. Head bowed, I will. His tears mix with rain, indistinguishable. But bread cannot knead itself from promises. Warehouses stand bare. You feel the crowd's patience fray. A woman shouts, "Words weigh nothing." Others echo, anger reigniting. The crack inside the shard splits bang, almost musical. One last filament remains. "Give it to them," you whisper, thrusting the fragment into Louis's hand. He flinches at its heat. Symbols feed hunger when grain runs dry. Break it where they can see. Understanding flickers. He rises, holds the shard high a sliver of night aflame, then drops it onto a stone. It shatters into black dust, scattering on rain-slick mud. A collective gasp. Torches flicker as if blown by invisible lungs. In that instant, the air tastes of turned pagish history, rewritten mid-sentence. The Ash Lady's voice murmurs in your inner ear. Debt settled. Interest outstanding. You exhale, unsure if lungs still function. A woman steps forward, picks up a fleck of the dust, smears it on her cheek like war paint. Others mimic, until dozens bear black streak-shared symbol forged from royal surrender. The mob's roar softens into a rumble of perplexed awe. For tonight, heads remain attached. Louis meets your gazy eyes, hollow but alive. Is it over? No, you answer. But the story is no longer yours alone. Dawn bleeds into pewter clouds. Versailles lies behind you, hushed, as you and the king ride slowly back through avenues strewn with trampled lilies. Courtiers peer from windows, baffled by the quiet after the storm. They will learn soon enough. Silence is not peace, only the inhale before a deeper cry. At the courtyard, a footman approaches with news Louis's beloved daughter Victoire lies near death from consumption. The king absorbs the blow like an old tree taking lightning. No crack, just charred bark. You realize prophecy never promised mercy for personal grief. Revolutions spare no hearth. He dismounts, turns to you. Chronicler, will you still record when they write my epitaph in ridicule? I will write, you say, and the writing will hurt. But truth told late is still truth. He nods, weariness collapsing his posture. As he trudges inside, the Ash Lady's silhouette appears on a high balcony of final witness, cloak billowing into dawn. She lifts two fingers in a gesture neither blessing nor curse, merely tallying. One king broken, one kingdom bending. You open your palm. No scar, no shardenly rain-clean skin. Yet under the surface you feel memory etched like roots. The mirror is gone, but its map remains inside every pulse. A gust scurries fallen petals across cobblestones. Some lodge in cracks. Some fly beyond the walls toward Paris, where change now marches in broad daylight. You watch until they vanish, petals becoming prophecy. Curiosity thrums. What grows in ground watered by contrition and rage? You suspect the answer towers already on the horizon, wooden, tall-necked, blade gleaming beneath tarpaulin. But that chapter belongs to another monarch, another witness. For now, the air smells not of lilac nor decay, but of raw earth after rain, the perfume of absence, and the possibility inside it. You turn your back on Versailles, heart lighter by the weight of one shattered mirror, heavier by everything it revealed. Somewhere, a new story strains to open, its first line scoring itself across the sky in silent lightning. The year is 1774, and Versailles has learned to whisper. Chandeliers still glitter, but their light feels rationed, as though candle flames have been advised to economize. Courtiers drift along galleries like ghosts, rehearsing departure. Somewhere deep in the palace, a carpenter planes oak coffin wood for a king who will not admit he is dying. The sound threads every corridor. Shh! Hush! Hush stroked into timber. You find Louis XV in the petite salon of Choisy, draped across a canopied chaise, breath rattling like dice in a bone cup. Smallpox blooms across his skin, purple constellations mapping the wages of every unguarded pleasure. Doctors hover with vials of violet syrup and prayers sewn from Latin, but the king's eyes track only you, the last unshattered mirror. He rasps, "Tell me how they will remember." You do not answer. Memory belongs to the living, and the living rewrite. The Ash Lady stands just behind him, unseen by attendants. Her cloak billows though the windows are shut, and in her gloved hand rests a ledger bound in soot-black leather. As pages flutter, you glimpse entries etched in rust-colored ink, initials of 600-plus women, columns of bread prices, pamphlet titles, thunderstorm dates. It is the kingdom's bloodstream rendered in script. Louis's fingers clutch your sleeve. Is debt paid? You glance at the Ash Lady. She inclines her head permission or farewell. Paid, you lie. For mercy. He exhales a sigh so thin it almost unlatches his soul. Then perhaps my grandson, Louis Auguste, shy boy soon to be Louis XVI, can plant something other than orchards of sin. Outside, thunder murmurs. April clouds bruise the horizon. You remember lightning on Du Barry's balcony 2 years ago, black dust smeared on marchers' cheeks. Storms return, symbols abide. The king's gaze fogs. Delirium paints the room with old faces, Meili sisters giggling behind fans. Pompadour reading Voltaire aloud, Du Barry tossing dice across a velvet board. They blur, orbiting him like moths around a guttering taper. He reaches once, twice, fingers closing on air. Desire cannot be destroyed, only redesigned. The lesson stings even now. Night deepens. Court physicians retreat, leaving you alone with your chronicle and death's metronome. A final psychological trigger clicks, irreversible stillness. When it arrives, you almost miss it. The great Louis XV leaves not with a trumpet, but with a soft, surprised sigh, as if discovering the bed is colder than expected. Silence blooms. The Ash Lady steps forward, lowers her veil, and presses a kiss him as that first night upon the corpse's brow. Soot traces fade into his cooling flesh, absorbed like ink into blotting paper. She turns to you, ledger clasped. Door 600 shuts. Door 601 yawns wide. She extends the ledger. Ink writhes, hungry for the next narrator. Your palm prickles where the old scar once lay. You shake your head, find another witness. A smile curves beneath her veil. History prefers the reluctant pen. She melts into shadows, ledger and all, leaving only the scent of wet ashes. Dawn reveals Versailles draped in black crepe. Bells toll from Sainte Marie. Volleys of cannon echo across hunting fields. Yet beyond palace walls, Paris neither mourns nor rejoices, it listens. Bread lines stretch. Pamphlets multiply. Café orators taste the air like wolves scenting a weakening stag. You climb the marble steps to the Hall of Mirrors one last time. Sunlight spears through tall windows, striking hundreds of polished panniers, every sheet flawless since the night you fused prophecy into dust. But look closely. Along the bevel of the central mirror runs a hair-thin fissure, newborn, almost imperceptible. You touch it. The glass hums. Behind you, soft footsteps. Louis Auguste, just 19, awkward in new mourning velvet. He stares at the hall with wide, water-gray eyes. I hear they called him the Beloved once, he says. Why does that title taste bitter in every mouth? You start to answer but see the Ash Lady leaning beside a column, ledger open to a blank page titled Reign the Second. Your breath catches. You say only, because love left unpaid accrues interest. The young king turns that riddle over, baffled. Then another figure appears, Marie Antoinette, feathers bobbing like nervous birds in her coiffure. She takes her husband's arm. Together they gaze at their reflections, two innocents rehearsing majesty, unaware the glass is cracked. Your pocket feels suddenly heavy. You reach in fingertips, brush a single grain of something gritty and cold, darker than coal. The last mote of mirror dust hidden since that night in the theater. It pulses once, eager. A trumpet fanfare summons the court to proclaim the new sovereigns. Gold doors swing wide, and light floods the hall, flaring across that hairline crack until it gleams like a blade's edge. You step back, certain it will run, but it holds, for now. Symbols wait for tipping points. You bow to the new king and queen, then slip through servants' passages toward an exit seldom used. As you walk, each lamp you pass flickers out, snuffed by currents no architect designed. You do not look back. Chroniclers must survive the tale to tell it, and another tale now stretches its jaws. Outside, rain begins soft, persistent, washing dust from statues, turning rosebeds to rust-scented mud. You breathe the perfume of absence one more time and taste a future thick with iron and smoke. Far away, in some tavern you cannot yet name, a pamphleteer scrapes quill across cheap paper. What is a king to bread? On another street a cutler hammers steel, shaping the curious new beheading device a surgeon just sketched. And in the nursery of the Petit Trianon, a lace-wrapped infant utters her first cry, future Madame Royale, born into a legend already etching prison bars. You open your palm. The lone grain of mirrored dust glimmers wetly, reflecting not your face but a scaffold dashed in miniature sparks. You whisper to it, or perhaps to yourself, "I will write until writing cannot save me, and then I will bleed ink." The ash lady's voice, distant thunder, now replies, "Ink or blood?" The page drinks either. You fold the dust into parchment, tuck it inside your coat, and walk down the long avenue away from Versailles. The palace recedes, a gilt mirage in thinning mist, every window a shuttered eye. Ahead lies Paris. And beyond Paris, a guillotine's shadow eager to resolve the oldest curiosity gap of all, how kingdoms end. You keep walking,